Hello, folks. Welcome back to the podcast. This is episode 53 of the Britt, Kanawha, West Hancock Athletics Podcast. Tonight, I have two Hobo Golf Championship legends with me. Just all the good things in the world represented right here. I got John Charbonneaux and Rolando Zamago. How you doing, fellas?
How's it going?
We've
Well,
had
Dan.
some technical difficulties tonight on my end, and then we bought a house tonight and sold our house today. So it's been a crazy day and just been a good time. So I'm ready just to get rocking on this, have some fun. Before we get to that, though, I have 19 sponsors for tonight. So thanks, as always, to my current sponsors, some new ones as well. Got some can cleaning business or something going on tonight by some guy that's on screen. So we'll get to that in a little bit. Like always, the money that sponsors give to me goes right to the Sanger Legacy Fund. Good money episode tonight, I'd call it. So a lot of good money going to the Legacy Fund. That's used to fund the West Hancock Hall of Fame, scholarships for seniors, supporting the athletic and activity funds, and we're doing some community outreach right now through Parks and Rec, hopefully in the near future. So that'll be a good thing. If you want to give to the Sanger Legacy Fund, you can go to sangerstrong.com or get a hold of me. All right, way back when, 5 episodes ago, in episode 48 was the 2007 football team watch along. 15 episodes ago, episode 38 was Jeff Nielsen. 30 episodes ago, in episode 23 was a football playoff episode with Jay and Kevin. And then 45 episodes ago, in episode 8 was Don DeWaard, the D coordinator at Central College. Let's get to some sponsors here, and then we're going to get rolling with these two young, good-looking young gentlemen here. So here we go. The Jay Hiscock State Farm Team in Britt is a proud supporter of West Hancock and the Sanger Legacy Fund. They can help you with all your insurance needs, including auto, home, life, farm, business, or renter's insurance. For a free quote or review, give Jay or Lindsay a call at 843-3563. Thanks to Jay and his team for sponsoring almost every episode that I do. And then Nick Schmidt is a 2000 West Hancock grad. He simply wanted to give back to the Sanger Legacy Fund in West Hancock by sponsoring all my episodes. So thanks to Nick Schmidt for doing that. And then I have a new sponsor tonight, a 1-episode sponsor. That's S&S Financial Group. Since 2007, S&S Financial Group has been covering the unseen for families of Kanawha, Britt, and North Iowa with senior products, life insurance, and annuities. Doug's wife, Beth, always says insurance is like buying underwear. You're not excited about buying it, but it's necessary and it's hidden and you need it. As a pastor and business owner, Doug Snyder understands the importance of having a good fit for your financial and insurance needs. To inquire, call Doug at 641-762-3344. That's 641-762-3344. And then one of my long-term sponsors, Miller & Son Golf Cars, is a family-owned operation with over 50 years of business experience. Skip and Jim worked together with their dad Monty until his passing in 1996. Associated with EasyGo, they now call on over 1,000 golf cars in 3 states. Companies and courses are always extremely happy and impressed with their products, service, and honesty. This has resulted in double-digit growth each passing year. Based just outside of Britt, Miller & Sons employs 18 full-time employees and 3 part-timers. The next generation is being trained as we speak to ensure long-term stability. For more information, contact them at 843-4132, email them at customerservice@millergolfcars.com, or visit them online at millergolfcars.com. All right, here we go, fellas. We're going to have some fun just shooting the breeze, talking some sports, talking some hobo golf, shop class with Mr. Brown, all sorts of good stuff. So thanks again for coming on. Good money night for the podcast on this episode, and I've been pumped for this one for quite a while. Let's just kind of start with introductions so everyone knows who you are. I'm sure they already all do because we're pretty famous guys, but fill us in, family, jobs, where you're at, what's keeping you busy. Start with you, Sharbs.
Well, thanks, Dan, for having us both on here tonight. I don't know about famous, maybe infamous, depending on who you talk to and what situation you're talking about. But
ran out of ideas for a while, so I just kind of needed a
yeah.
floor, so.
Well, I wondered some of that, and it's Rolly and I mean, I feel like we had some good teams. We did a lot of fun stuff and played on some good. I'm like, man, we're trailing up a bunch of like multi-time state champions. And I'm like, Dan, what do you want me to talk about? But
it's all about balance.
Thanks, man. But no, thanks for having us. It's a great to be on, share and have some fun with everybody. And it's awesome to see all the sponsors up behind you there giving back to the Sanger Legacy Fund, which is a great cause. So if you can go out and check that out. But John Charbonneau, I grew up in Britt. My folks still live there, Mike and Jan down 6th Street down there, still there. So if you want to go say hi, go down there. But I'm down went to Ames, went to school at Iowa State, and graduated, moved to Des Moines area for work, working at Principal Financial. So currently a family and we live in Johnston, Iowa, and my wife Maria, and then I've got 2 kids, a 6-year-old son Flynn, and then a 4-year-old daughter Pearl. So been here, started in Urbandale, moved to Johnston a couple years ago. So still working at Principal Financial. Hard to believe, coming up on 15 years. So yeah, kind of a wild ride, but here I am, and appreciate you having me on and talk with my buddy Rolando. So
You bet.
Yes,
Rolly,
sir.
go ahead.
Yeah, Dan, thanks for having us on. Really happy to support the Sanger Fund. I mean, they made a huge difference in my life. I know personally, Linda in our accounting class and Coach Sanger and on and off the field, right? So, but yeah, once I graduated high school, went to Buena Vista University up in Storm Lake, Iowa. From there, got a job at Fargo, been there 15 years. Got married, 2 kids, Mia 8, Lily 11. From there, really staying busy with whatever activities they have. And of course, golfing, hunting, still lifting every morning, the fun stuff. And then of course the new business, can cleaning. So still here in Ankeny, Iowa.
Yep. And we're going to take this time to talk about can cleaners. Rolly gave $25,000 for this episode. So he gets all the time that he needs. So tell him about can cleaners.
Yeah, well, can cleaners, Ankeny family-owned business. We're offering the best in the business, trash and recycle bin cleaning. Those are the ones that you wheel out to the front of the driveway. Not the funnest, but one of the most cleanliness jobs you can have. We service both residential and commercial customers. While your typical methods get the can clean, we really take time on this sanitizing it and deodorizing it as well. We use a high pressure system of 230 degrees that kills all the bacteria. It's all self-enclosed, so we capture all the drainage water so it doesn't have any runoff and hurt any of the neighborhoods or the ecosystem. Really fairly priced, $9 a month for 1 bin, 15 quarterly, and 1 times 45. We've been growing. I'm excited to say we're up to 80 clients, either monthly or quarterly combined. You can find us at thecanisclean.com, or let me grab the phone number. It is 515-901-0664 to schedule something. So it's been fun.
Yeah. Yep. Good deal. Yeah, we're happy for you. And this is one thing I like about the podcast is that you can get these small businesses that are growing a little more exposure, and glad to do it for a Britt guy. So yeah, good deal. Let's talk some elementary, middle school. Yeah, we're gonna talk sports and stuff like usual, but we went to elementary school together, 1 year of high school together, so it's kind of fun to talk about having some of the teachers and some of the kids that we hung around town with. So what was it like growing up in Britt back, we're talking like early 90s, mid 90s, and then you guys graduated 02, I graduated 05. So what were some of your experiences growing up?
Man, the thing I remember the most is the pits, just going out there, jumping off those big mountains and just having a field day out there. I mean, there's no really any crazy things you could really do. So we made things that didn't get us in trouble, but it was fun.
Yeah, there were really, I remember those, that cliff that's over there. I think they got it all shut down now, but I'm sure it's a liability nightmare in the world 2022. But yeah, jumping off some of those, you're thinking back and happy none of us got carted out of there.
I actually never have been out to the pits before.
Oh man.
some of the guys I hung with, that just wasn't a thing to go do. So, people go out to the pits and I'm like, okay.
You do it all, Dan. You go out there, you fish and, do a little trap shooting or put some cans out there, shoot with your 22 or whatever, and then go swimming for a while or ride. I remember Matern, all those guys were out there riding dirt bikes all the time, and Zool and some of those boys.
Yeah.
There's always something going on.
Yeah. Nope. Never made it out there.
Boy.
I have to go out there. See if you can get through the trespassing signs, but
Yeah.
the adventure, right?
I don't even know who owned the pits, or was that part of the county, or what was, I don't even know what it is.
County.
Okay. So
Yeah. And I technically think even back then you weren't really supposed to be out there, but they, the gates are open. They never really policed it too much, but I think somebody got hurt a while back or something along those lines. So they buttoned it up, but.
Yeah. And the statute of limitations have passed on all these things we're going to talk about tonight.
Yeah.
There's no legal ramifications to doing this podcast. We should be good.
20 years, Dan, 20 years. So
I think it's passed. So
I think Rolando can probably agree with me, but I don't know, Britt's a special place. I think even at coming up on the age of 40, I still think it's a special place with special people. It's, I think growing up, I don't know, it was a wholesome hometown. You ride your bikes till the sun goes down. You meet up with your buddies to play Little League or, swimming at the pool or go over to Iceman's, and with Zach Osterkamp and whoever, Ryan Johnson, a bunch of guys, and play football and beat each other up pretty rough over there. But I don't know, it's just it was a good experience, a lot of good friends, still a lot of great friends to this day, stay in touch. But I don't know, good people, good town, good values, the whole 9 yards. I think I guess when you think about small town living, I don't know, wholesome, that's what comes to my mind is a town where we grew up.
Yeah, a lot of work ethic too, right? Like everyone's working, everyone's willing to help each other out. That was the cool thing too, is just being one of the first Hispanic families there. They were very open armed for us, right? And once we got in the community, we became even more welcome, which breached the gap between, again, diversity and everything. So it was just phenomenal for not only my family, but the families that followed after. Like everyone was very inviting and understanding, and just a great experience.
Where did you guys move from and when? I don't remember exactly when you guys came in.
Well, we originally came from Sioux City, Iowa, so western Iowa.
Yep.
It was right before my kindergarten year, because I started school in Britt. So, yeah, I mean, shoot, I was there a good 15 years, or how long did it take to graduate?
Well, it depends on the person.
Yeah, depends on your grades, Rolly.
Yeah. Well, I think I was a 3.6. We were in the advanced math class together, Sharp.
Yeah. I know, you used to be smart, and
What happened to us?
I don't know.
My dad started on grades and GPAs at West Hancock High School class 02. He's still bitter about that. My sister was like,
sister,
was she the second in your class?
Yeah, I think so. But
and she got 0 scholarships. And I think what Mr. Block was under the impression was that she was getting like a full ride from the military, but she really wasn't. And then my dad, he was ticked.
And I think that was before, again, I don't have kids in the high school area now, but like you see, like Joe Schmo graduated with a 4. Wait a minute, I thought 4, that's like telling somebody they got 110% on your quiz, Dan. How does that work?
Yeah, that didn't happen. Yeah.
No,
not for me at least. So, yeah. John's frozen a little bit here. We'll see what happens. But really, what about some like teachers and stuff that were important to you growing up, middle school, or elementary and middle school?
Oh man, Savoy is one big one that I remember. I mean, shoot, like I can picture them, man, but honestly, I lose the names. Drake, of course. How cool was having a pool in the basement of elementary? I tell you what, that saved I almost drowned once when we were swimming, but later on in life, because I learned to swim there, I've saved 4 people's lives total in the ocean. So that's just kind of a neat little feather in my cap, knowing that I learned in Britt how to swim and I was able to save some people from drowning. So that was kind of cool.
I can smell that as soon as you said that.
Yeah.
That basement down there at the school, man, that had a distinct smell and feel to it. And
Yeah.
Dan in my back.
yeah, you're back. Yep, you're
All
good.
right. Well, I was gonna say, speaking of the pool, remember lining up outside the old elementary building in the cold mornings? You stand by that big vent that pumped the heat, out of the basement there. And so it smelled like chlorine water, but there's this nice hot air that we all stood by and keep
Yeah.
warm.
Yeah, because we couldn't get in to watch cartoons in the auditorium until a certain time. And
Yeah.
then,
Speaking of that, talk about a unique building, that old elementary school. I can still I can smell it right now in my nose. The pool, like you said, that gym.
Yeah.
And when you walked in there, they painted like the highway road lines, how to walk into that fresh paint smell of that old school. But
Yep.
talk about history in that place. My grandpa went to school my grandpa Pete, he went to school there, and heck, he even went to, I think when they had the
junior college. Yep. Losing him again. Yeah, that was. We'll wait for him, really, see what happens. But Mr. Carter used to give us all a birthday card every year on our birthday. Do you remember those? It was the blue or green one that always had a fish on it or something, but he always gave you a birthday card every year. So
yeah, man, those were the days. The auditorium too, I totally forgot about that, but that was a cool setup.
yeah, bats
the
flying
concerts.
around up top. Yeah, I just look at that school and go, man, it wouldn't fly right now. Some of the health codes and building code issues and stuff, it would just be
because they had the old school radiators too, right, for the heating.
Oh yeah, you touch one of those things to go sharpen your pencil and you burn your hand.
I might got burnt a couple times, but
or you drop something on it and it would start melting. Yeah, it wouldn't fly today, that's for sure. But Sharbs, you there? Can you hear us?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, we're losing you from time to time, but Rolly's really doing a good job picking up your slacks.
Well, somebody's gotta,
What about middle school? We go over to Kanawha, and that was always kind of exciting, those 2 years to go hang out over there. What do you guys remember from middle school?
Man, middle school, it was a new experience, right? Going to a different town, 10-minute drive every morning. PE class, Stickles and Miller's the one that really, I guess, stood out for me there. Just really, put the work ethic with the sports and everything. Started lifting at that time.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting when you probably still to stay riding that bus down there and transferring the drivers in between and
the 5 mile switch.
Yeah, exactly. But you're like you said, some of the good teachers down there, like Miller, Sickles, some of the other names escape me, but
Mrs.
just Miss Bone, yep, science teacher, I remember that. But really, so started getting lifting, started doing different stuff. I don't know, I remember having to write a note home to my parents one time. Ryan Johnson and I were throwing some stuff around in class. I think Rolly might have been in there too while we were supposed to be reading, but it's all fun and games.
Was that Mr. DeWaard too?
Yeah, it was Mr. DeWaard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was a class act.
Yeah. I mean, who knew you can't throw something over the shelves and hit somebody with it and walk away.
Miss Casper, the art teacher, was one of my favorites. She always was so annoyed with us at all times, it seemed like, but she enjoyed it.
She loved it. She loved it and she knew it. Yeah. She just had to be a teacher, or else I think she'd be right in the mix with everyone.
Yep. Remember Randy Mills would sing Casper the Friendly Ghost to her, and my sister would always tell me, and it would just tick her off. Yeah, always something.
You mentioned used to be a high school too, right?
The Kanawha building, yeah, that used to be a high school. Sharbs is gonna love the fact that he's frozen on the screen like this with a big old smile. Yeah, we're having a little technical difficulty, but he'll get back on here in a little bit. We'll make it work. So
yeah, that's when the Kanawha Christian schools started joining us too. I think the years
they would come for sports and stuff, I think, or football for sure. I think they kind of had their own basketball, but they could do both.
That's when Rass joined.
Yep.
think that's when I met him.
There were some horses from Kanawha Christian School, man. They were they had Al DeWaard, or older than us, and the Rasmussens, and there was several of them that were pretty good athletes at West Hancock. So
We definitely benefited from it.
while we're waiting for Sharps, I'm gonna do some sponsors here, and then hopefully he gets back on. But we spent about 15 minutes before we hit record trying to get this figured out, and we were having some glitches, but we'll see what happens. Go from there. So here we go. Really, we got the Original Saw Company is the leader in American-made radial arm saws, cross-cut power saws, and beam saws. They also offer accessories such as extension tables, measuring and clamping systems, dust shrouds, miter saw stands. Original Saw's product line includes items for both the hobby woodworker and complex automated industrial settings. Sister company, Williams and Hussey Machine and Tool, manufactures and sells molders and accessories for making custom and stock moldings and trim. Original Saw provides through Jones Machinery a preventative maintenance and repair service of wood and metal working machinery throughout the Midwest. Want to know more about the Original Saw Company? Check them out at originalsaw.com. Then next we have Carlson Drainage. Call Darren Carlson for all your farm tile needs, including GPS controlled pattern tiling, backhoe digging, dozer work, as well as high pressure water jetting. Offering a complete sewer and drain cleaning. Oh, I'm gonna get John on here real quick. Sorry, Darren. Complete sewer and drain cleaning service to fix all your slow and clogged drains of any size and kind. Give Darren Carlson a call at 641-860-0500. Then while we're getting John back on here, I got a few more sponsors. Sharps, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can't see you, but we can hear you. I'm just going through a few sponsors while we're waiting for you.
That's all right. I'm trying to get all set up. Sorry, man.
There we go. You're good. It happens. And then Michael and Brianne Ewing of Ewing Funeral Home and Monument Company have locations in Britt, Kanawha, Clarion, Belmont, and Dow's. Mike is a 1998 graduate of West Hancock, and his family's been privileged to care for the communities of Britt and Kanawha since 1977. You can find him online at ewingfh.com or on Facebook. Give him a call at 843-3839 or 762-3211. That's Ewing Funeral Home and Monument Company. And then we have Daniels Auto Collision in Charles City. Owner Jason Daniels is a 1990 West Hancock grad. Whether you need a minor fix-up or complete collision repair, Daniels Auto Collision is North Iowa's premier auto body shop and will have your vehicle on the road looking better than new. With over 30 years experience and all major insurances accepted, why take your chances with anyone other than Daniels Auto Collision? Call them at 641-220-3805. Email them at danielsautocollision@gmail.com or check them out at danielsautocollision.com. And then we have one more here quick. That's the Showalter family and Window World of Mason City. They're a proud sponsor of the Britt Kanawha West Hancock podcast. Once an Eagle, always an Eagle. Fly high, Coach Sanger and Joey Showalter. All right, let's get to some sports here, fellas. John, you're looking good as always now. Hopefully it stays that way. We're going to mostly talk football here, but if we want to talk some other sports, that's fine too. I know Rolly was a stout wrestler back in the day as well. So you guys both played all 4 years for Coach Sanger. You already mentioned Miller and Sickles. They were the middle school coaches for you guys, right?
Right.
Yeah. What was that like playing for them?
Man, I tell you what, they were tough. I think they really instilled the mentality of you have to be disciplined, you have to work hard. I mean, sometimes I felt our junior high practices were harder than our high school ones, but I think that's just because we were younger and all. But I mean, never take your helmets off, just very hard on their beliefs on like you had to be disciplined on and off the field.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they really got to it. And I mean, you can definitely tell. I think both of those gentlemen deserve a pretty big round of applause and a lot of credit for setting up the high school program too. You know, it's like we learned the same playbook. You know, everything was the same. So when we got to freshman year, we knew what was going on, and we understood the little things. Simple stuff. You think, how do you get in a huddle? How do you do this? You know, Rolly with his arms up over his head, huddle. You know, there he is. There you got it.
That's almost exaggerated. You know.
But it's just, you know, and it's still in that work ethic. You know, they got after us. They didn't give up. which is also, I think, why we had some pretty good success over the years. It started there. You got to start with the little things. They built it up and kind of turned it into what it was. And, and then Sanger and crew took it from there and did their thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you guys ever get to wear the Kanawha Bulldog jerseys at practice that they had in the shed?
That was our practice jersey, wasn't it, Sharps?
I think maybe. I don't know. Brett Lang probably has one somewhere, but I can't. I remember some of those days. I just remember doing the leg, what do you call, lay on your back with your leg, like scissor kicks,
Yeah.
and walk around, step on your stomach.
Yeah.
Jeez.
And
I
then
think up downs. And I mean, it was good. We had a lot of fun, but we got down to business. And
that Kanawha field was great. It was just kind of out there in the open, had that cinder track around it. Greg Wilson, do you guys remember him from my class? He was the big tall kid. He was like 6'7" in 5th grade, huge guy. Do you remember him at all?
Yes.
So Greg came out for football one year over there in Kanawha, and he was sitting on the end of the bench. His mom brought him some popcorn and a hot dog during the game, and two other kids were, I think it was Michael Trilson and Derek Mazzoni, were injured, and so they were sitting on the other side of those little benches they had, probably seated about 6 guys. Greg's on one very end, and then those two are on the other end. Those two got up at the exact same time, and that bench went flying. Greg went down, and that bench did about 2 rotations, I think, before it landed. And then we didn't have Sickles and Miller, but Ben Mueller and Mr. Smith, he was only there for 1 year. They put Greg in. We called it 200 Greg. It was essentially a 242 dive, you could call it, because it went right up the middle, and we all just got behind and pushed him in. And
he was like a full-size man by the time he was like a freshman, I think.
Oh, grade school, he was a full-size man. So,
well, and that was back in the day too, Dan. I was the size where they let me run the ball a little bit too, even. So that was kind of fun. I think everybody wanted to be a running back, right? Or a quarterback or something. So
I think I even scored in junior high.
Yeah. We did like the refrigerator Perry style or something,
Get up 3-4 scores at the end. They're like, all right, anybody's fair game at this point.
Power I was the play, I think, if I recall right.
And then you weren't fooling anybody with the power right, power left, when you left like basically one guy on the other side of the center there, and like, wonder which way they're going to pitch the ball.
You have 3 wingbacks over there.
But I think we learned a lot from those guys. And actually, it's funny, to this day, I still coach Sickles. I use it a lot on a daily basis of things at work, just in life, of keep it simple, stupid. I remember him telling me one time, and it's like resonates, like, simple is good. If it works, it works. And a funny story of Coach Sickles, when we went to Cresco that time to get off the bus, he was standing there waiting to meet some of us when we got off that time. So I know you got him coming on, but he was Rolando, he was in the wrestling coach, didn't he, in junior high? Or was that
a little bit?
No, he did basketball. Never mind, he did basketball. Him and Miller both did basketball too, because he was a heck of a good basketball coach at Cresco, and his daughters are real good basketball players.
What about JV football? Because you guys were in the 2A era, where it's pretty hard to see the field as maybe a sophomore. So who would have been your JV coaches, and how'd you guys do in that at that level?
Wasn't it Boozman and
Fink
at the time? Yeah.
Yeah, I think we got a little bit of a blend, because Mr. Evans was around, still when we were freshmen and things.
Was Heeman around, or was he gone by then?
It was Evans and Heeman, I believe, when we were freshmen, and then it switched over to Boozman and Fink. And that's where some of those famous let's run 45 dives with Johnson and I and whoever, Roley, or like just keep running it. They can't, and it was however many in a row type of stuff. But yeah, it was kind of neat we got exposed to a good amount of coaches and learned a lot from different perspectives, especially Boozman and Fink, coming in with a little bit younger perspective on some of that stuff too.
Yeah. Yeah, because Peterson was our QB. B was our running back. Chubbs was our halfback too, right?
Yep. And Brochure was a running back, and Johnson. it's like I shifted around a little bit, but I played guard and like a linebacker in JV. But we had good success. I feel like even from junior high through about JV, and obviously then when you're varsity, it switches to the different districts and stuff. But really the team that gave us the most fits and through that era was probably Garner, because they had such big kids. They just outsized us.
We still took it to them though. I mean, didn't we?
Yeah.
Beat them for the most part. The other big team was Lake Mills because what's his name?
Stensrude's.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But a heck of a wrestler too.
Dan, your point with the 2A and dressing and different things, that it was kind of a different story too. I don't know if it's just the amount of kids or what, the talent too. There's a lot of good players in those classes, but I remember Steve Iceman and I got asked like right at the very end of the season to just dress varsity, and that was kind of a like, whoa, and that was our freshman year, and we never saw the field obviously, but we got to stand there and that would have been like Jake Zool and those guys were playing. And then I got to a little bit of playing time my sophomore year. I dressed, and that was takes a toll on a guy a little bit too, playing on Monday nights and then, going to practice and maybe playing. I think the first game, speaking of Rolando's brother, Ray, we were up at Cresco, and them guys were monsters. They were huge dudes, and Benning grabbed Ray and had him come out. He sends me running out there, and I looked at Sanger, and I had that look in my, scared, what, and I'm just like, Mark, like, what do I do? He tells me where to go or whatever. But that was my first exposure to, and that would have been with like, Ray and Brett Lang and Mike Rass, Adam Bird, Adam Klein, kind of that crew. So Jason Harley, who I know you had on a while back, but
yeah, that guy's a beast. Still is. He's like hustle his entire life.
I know.
Yeah, because I think wasn't Lars and I also we dressed varsity there towards the second season.
Yep.
Those me, you, Sharp, or Lars, and Beeve.
Yeah. And then they pulled a couple of stuff, and we saw a little bit of time, or if they got up, whatever, we would get in a little bit. But yeah, it's kind of eye opening. It's like you spend your whole little childhood watching all these kids play, and it's like you're like, man, I can't wait to get out there. And you get out there, and it's just like, whoa, what am I doing here? What did I get into?
These guys are huge.
The speed of the game is crazy. I remember my sophomore year, I got in at homecoming against St. Edmunds. I remember like thinking I was going to get to the play, and all of a sudden the guy just went right by me. I'm like, yep, it's a little faster out here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What were your first interactions with Coach Sanger? Like maybe going back to freshman year. Do you guys remember being just scared to death that you're like, I am actually playing for Coach Sanger and I don't want to do anything too stupid or mess up?
Yeah, man, I tell you what, I remember summer two-a-days. I showed up late because my brother left me. And so I arrived late. And so I swear to this day, I still have those nightmares, right? You forgot a pad or your shoes or your cleats or something. You're running late and you're going to disappoint Coach Sanger. And it's devastating.
Yeah. I legit have dreams every once in a while where I'm like going into my senior year of football and I didn't like prepare or get in shape the whole summer. So like the night before, I'm like running around that square outside of town, and then I show up to practice just dead. Still have that every once in a while.
Yeah, the Sunday evenings in the parking lot there, run to Main Street and back, and then do some sprints and run some plays or whatever, and
push a car.
Yeah, summertime.
Parking lot.
I think your point, Dan, there was just that level of respect. Like it was just kind of the air. And Coach Sanger, he was never mean about it. I mean, if he was mean, he got after you, earned it. He never did anything like that just to get after people. But he did it in kind of a way that, I don't know, he didn't just yell at you. He taught you something along the way. Like you knew you did something wrong, but then he corrected you and showed you how to fix it. And I don't know, I think that is what made him such a presence and a great coach. But yeah, those freshmen, sophomore, you kind of walk on eggshells a little bit because you hear these stories, and I think some of it's a little BS. Some of the guys getting in your heads a little bit. But you didn't want to screw up either, though. You're like, I don't want to find out.
No,
I got to call out Coach Boozman here because my freshman year, I am scared to death. And I go to Boozman to get shoulder pads, and he couldn't find some that fit me. And he goes, well, I'm going to send you over there to Coach Sanger. You go ask him for some shoulder pads. I'm like, oh, no. That was the last thing I wanted to encounter today was that legendary guy that scared me because he just had that presence about him. And so he goes, just go up there and ask him. So he's walking away from me, and I go, Coach Sanger. He just keeps walking. Start getting a little louder. Coach Sanger. Keeps walking. I'm like, I have to yell for him to hear me because I had heard that maybe his hearing wasn't the greatest. I shout out his name. He turns around and goes, what are you yelling at me for? I'm like, oh, I almost quit. Like that almost was the end of my career before it started. And I said, well, I've been yelling your name to get shoulder pads. Oh, let's go. Like that's all afterwards. I was like, oh boy. But then I bought new cleats that day before the first practice and didn't wear them until the first practice. My feet hurt. I've never experienced such pain in my feet as I did that day. I'm like, every year after that, I bought them in June and wore them all summer long, but it was terrible. So,
well, and those 2-a-days and stuff too, man, we used to do stuff. No way. And hell, you get away with some of that now, those Oklahoma drills and stuff. You're just crack one after another. And man, just beating each other to death in those mornings. But those are some good times though too. I tell you, I think back, it's
special
fun.
Practicing that was a good time. So it was worth it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, speaking of,
until you had to go against guys like Rolly though, because he's 5 inches shorter than me, and it's lowest man wins. Well, yeah. What am I gonna do? Lay on the ground?
Hey, you had the speed, man. You had the speed.
Duck and cover.
That's why
Beeve
was a good running back. He's low to the ground.
Still is.
Still is.
he carried our Hobo Golf team one year though, so I can't give him too much crap. He came in. So speaking of JV coaches, we're gonna get to varsity here in a minute, but one of my sponsors is the Dave Fink Memorial Fund. We've been talking about him. Dave Fink taught and coached at West Hancock for several years before moving to Waverly Shell Rock. He passed away in 2016 at the age of 41, leaving behind his wife and 3 sons. The Dave Fink Memorial Fund raises money to give out scholarships to WSR graduating seniors, helps fund the WSR Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and they can continue to support their football program. So please consider giving to the Dave Fink Memorial Fund. If you need more information, go ahead and give me a holler, or Chuck Boozman or his wife, Tiffany. Then I have the Britt Car, Truck, Bike, and Tractor Night Cruise. They're sponsoring about 30 episodes this year, and they're going to do all my episodes again for 2023. Jared Winger and company run these great events. They'll take place on 3 separate dates in 2023. I think he's just getting those dates out. They're all on Wednesday nights. He's also the owner of Mojo Productions and does a lot for the community of Britt. The 6th annual event will have free kids activities. Trophies will be presented in all categories, and a $1,000 award goes out to the winner of each show. Can't beat free admission, great food and drink from Britt vendors only. Check out Jared Wingert's cruise nights on BrittCarCruise.com. Then we have my brother Eric Kroll, who I forgot to put his name under his logo on my background, so sorry about that, but he's my brother, so deal with it. He's one of the sponsors today, like he's been, and he also sponsors the live stream football games on Friday nights. Ag Performance is the leader in conventional seed throughout the Midwest. They also have a product called Xylem Plus that is fighting against fusarium, stalk rot, white mold, and other vascular diseases. Contact Eric at 515-341-3361 if you're looking for a higher net return on your fields. That's Eric Kroll with Ag Performance. Then we have Kelly Real Estate. They've been in business for over 60 years now, starting with Paul Kelly. Paul handed the business off to Steve and Deanna in 2017. They have been involved with the business for over 20 years themselves now. It's a great way to get to know people, get involved with the community. Kelly Real Estate this last 2 years ago now added Rachel Swanson to their team, and then also their office manager, Nora Clark. So if you're interested, Looking for just the right starter home, the perfect forever home, or a unique fixer-upper, or even a transition into a retirement home? Call Kelly Real Estate at 843-4102. Like I said, I got a lot of sponsors tonight. This next one is one of your classmates, Amanda Rasmussen, and her business, White Barn Picket Fence. White Barn Picket Fence has been specializing in newborn and children's photography for the past 14 years in northern Iowa. An expansion into farmhouse decor and gifts began about 5 years ago. Their first location was in downtown Algona. Second location can now be found in downtown Clear Lake. With 2 locations, the best serve their customers, White Barn Picket Fence brings the best of modern farmhouse style and unique gifts to the North Iowa area. You can also shop online at whitebarnpicketfence.com. All right, let's get to some more varsity football here, and then we're going to keep scooting along to some fun hobo golf and Mr. Brown stories. So in your 4 seasons, 1998 to 2001, assuming that you maybe played varsity all 4 years, or it's just how the varsity did your 4 years, you guys went 30-9, and crazy enough, 30-9 in West Hancock world isn't that great. Like my 4 years was like 32-7, and people are like, yeah, they only made the playoffs twice. It's crazy to me how like we're that good and have had that much success for that many years that span is considered like okay. Would you guys agree?
Yeah, I think it speaks to the tradition, and there are a couple of years there that obviously didn't end like any of us wanted them to, but yeah, 30-9, that's wild. You think that, like you said, in a lot of schools around the country, not just the state, the country would probably kill to have a 4-year window at 30-9, and some of that, but just speaks to the tradition, what Coach Sanger helped build and what Mark's carrying on.
Yeah, and he
right
always
now it's
up to talent, right? Kind of what we were talking before. Playing 2A ball is a whole different ball game against some of those bigger schools like Emmitsburg. That would bring, an offensive team and a defensive team. While we were going both ways as long as we could. So to be that successful and playing up to bigger schools, I mean, that's what Coach Sanger built.
Yeah. And we've always had amazing athletes. I mean, that Hall of Fame thing we just did, it's like, holy cow, it's a who's who. But Coach Sanger relied on a lot of athletes, like, no offense to us, but like us, who weren't like these world beater, became all American college guys. It was just average to above average athletes, and you just found like you need to be good at this one thing. You need to be good at doing, like some of our centers we had, it's like they weren't anything special, but they could snap the ball and get their head on the play side and get a guy a yard out of the way so that fullback could do his thing. And it's like he wasn't asking everyone to do amazing things. It was just do your job. That's kind of what the program was prided on. So yeah.
One of the coolest things he did for me, I was going to say, is, my sophomore year, I remember specifically, do you guys remember the presidential awards, the fitness test?
Yep.
Sophomore year, I barely hung for time. And then he encouraged me to go out for wrestling. And I was like, no way, coach, I'm not doing wrestling. And sure enough, I caved and I talked to Coach Benny. I'm like, Coach, I'm just going to practice with you guys. I want to get better for football. I don't want to do tournaments or meets. I don't want to wear the singlets. That was the big thing. And he just kind of laughed at me and said, okay, Zamago, okay. Sure enough, 2 weeks in, I was ready to go to the meets and tournaments, man. It did turn up my competition, but the following year, I was able to do 10 pull-ups. And I remember a specific coach saying, Zamago, I'm really proud of you for, making those changes and getting stronger overall. So that it's just those little pieces that you respect him so much that mean so much to you.
And I think to your point, Dan, that was like his talent. He got the most out of everything, out of everybody. And, to the point where, I mean, you'd run through a brick wall for the guy if he asked you to, and he did it in a good way. You weren't scared. It was just that respect and admiration for what he'd done. And he had a unique talent of seeing people and knowing where they would be able to succeed, and then doing like Rolly just said, like encouraging him to try something or challenge themselves because he knew they could do it. And that's why he got the most out of like you said, not all of it. There's some heck it's pretty amazing when you think back the list of athletes that have come out of a small town like Britt. I mean, that's pretty unreal. Like, I know we've had those discussions, and you've had them on here too, but most of us are just, your average athlete playing football, and he found the right guy and he put him in the right spot on that field too. He knew what they could accomplish. And that was, I don't know, that's, to me personally, that's like as a sports lover and, starting to coach with some little kids stuff and all these other things. It's like, that's the type of stuff you take with you. You don't realize it when you're 18 years old, but you turn 40 and some other stuff, you start thinking back and realize some things.
Yeah. And the thing with the program is we all root for the program to keep winning. I literally talked to a guy not that long ago, a year ago maybe, and he was ticked because a kid from his high school broke his record that he had on the football program, and he was ticked. He goes, I was hoping to have that record forever. And I'm like, where I'm from, we are so tickled when the next team does even better, or this kid climbs this rank, this record board, or they win another championship. Like, no, there's no jealousy of, our team. I'm like, I mean, there's a reason why 4,000 people watch the live stream every Friday night. Or actually, I drove to Hartley last week with Rick Sanger, 200 some miles to go to a game, and I'm like, that's not common in a lot of places. That people that are, we're in our 30s and 40s, and we still are connected to the program and pay attention and watch it and go to the dome when they make it or whatever. It's not a common thing, and that's Coach Sanger, his prints all over that.
Absolutely.
So getting to some of your games here, 1999, you guys lost in the first round to Iowa Falls, 18-15. Jason Harley talked about that game in his podcast. And then the one that got me in 2000, that'd been your junior year. We played Ballard of Huxley in the first round of the playoffs. You guys are in the Metro. Ballard's getting big.
Yeah.
They played West Hancock in the 2A playoffs 22 years ago. It was at home, yeah. That kills me because you guys were 2A your senior year, and I was a freshman. We were down to A by my senior year. We dropped 2 classes in 3 years, and now we're playing, the smaller schools around. But yeah, Ballard of Huxley back then, it was crazy.
Well, and I remember the Iowa Falls game. Jason, I know he talked a little bit about it too, and some of the size of those guys. And I think I was like 5'11", 185 pounds or something, a freshman, but still close to that weight, by the way.
Me too.
Top half or bottom half?
Yeah. But those guys were huge, and the playoff system was a little bit different back then too, or some of those. But Iowa Falls, they were monster dudes. I just remember that game. It was a slugfest. All the way down, I'm trying to remember back, but it was all the way, I think it was all the way down to the last, in that fourth quarter, it really came down to, it was a heck of a game. But I was just standing on the sideline in a jersey watching. So, but it was, and then the Ballard game, Rolly can keep me honest, but we hadn't really seen anybody like that either. Most teams are kind of like us, that with the smash mouth or, a lot of running, a few passes here or there, but they had a kid that could throw the ball pretty well. Yeah. And if I remember right, I don't know, they tossed it around a little bit. So there's something new for us to see a little, we don't see a whole lot of that. I see a little bit more nowadays, but back then it was pretty much 3 yards in a cloud of dust, everybody you faced.
Yeah. And even now, if you watch the live stream on those games, we beat teams handily. They're like, they don't pass the ball much either, but a lot of it's, they just want to get out of there. We have 8 regular season games, and 5 or 6 of them anymore are almost throwaway games where you just know we're going to win handily. And I'm like, why aren't these guys chucking it around more? And I'm like, I've coached before. I know what they're doing. They're just keeping the clock running.
Well, and to your point, the playoff structure earlier, with the record and stuff, it was a little bit different too, because like our senior year when we missed the playoffs, I mean, it was 2 losses. I mean, in today's system, you'd still more than likely land somewhere, probably not a good seed. But, I mean, it was down a lot of those years, like, you better win your district. Like, that was your punch your ticket, and outside of that, it was all that point system and scoring points and all that. Because I remember Rolly's, it's like the whole Zamago family on the team. We had, it was Ray Ramiro. There you go. trying to think. And we were like just urging that last touchdown to get in, like get in, man. We need to make sure we lock this points in.
Got to win by 13.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could go 8-1 back then and not make the playoffs.
Yeah, it was nuts.
Easy.
Yeah, we were both 7-2 our senior years, didn't get in, and we were decent enough teams. You guys lost to Emmitsburg 7-0. I think they scored on that first drive, and that was it the whole game. So if you like defense, that was a good game. And then Eagle Grove homecoming your senior year, I still remember that one just being gut wrenching. Game we probably would have won 8 or 9 out of 10 times if we played them, and that night was just not our night. And I mean, you had Ryan Johnson on the field. He became an All-American at Central. All the Eismans, you guys. It was and then the grade below you, they should have been in the championship game that next year. So you had a lot of talent on that field. It just didn't happen. But,
I think that was really key. I think that was the least favorite homecoming dance that I can ever remember.
Man, that was terrible. The thing is, we had a talented group. I mean, we were just Joe Schmoes, but everyone gave it their all. Like, I mean, how many times were you hurt, Sharbs and Ras, with your shoulders popped out? You guys went back out there and went at it. Like, it doesn't matter. You're going to give it your all every game. And just to lose that, it was rough.
Yeah, I'm with you, Dan. I don't know if it was our night or what. I can't remember. Maybe I've physically or mentally blocked that one out of my brain. But the Emmitsburg game was a brawl for the ages too. It was like between the 40s pretty much after that first touchdown.
Yeah.
If you like defense, that was good. But I remember it was at Emmitsburg too, because Ryan Johnson and I walked up. So you have to run up that dang hill to get back to your locker room. And him and everybody's jogging up, let's go get back. And I'm walking. Ryan and I save us some breath here, man. We were gassed.
Yeah. Ryan Johnson, though, I remember as a freshman, we would do one-on-one lineman drills. So we'd have half the linemen over here, half over here. And we would be counting like, all right, there's Ryan. He's 6 from the front. And you'd be counting like, oh, no, that's me. And we'd be like, I'll give you $20 to trade me spots. Like some of us younger guys were like, that's not worth $20. He would drive us down the field about 25 yards into the defensive backs drill or whatever was going on. And
they used to put Ryan and I on he probably remembers this. And they used to put us on the kickoff returns in the front line. And it's illegal now. You can't cross like that, but we would cross about halfway through, and those guys would have their heads turned like this, and him and I would just pick them off. It was like highlight reel stuff. You just live for upending somebody like that. But today's day and age, it'd probably throw you out for headhunting people.
Do you guys?
It happened too. Drew Struby from Emmitsburg. He caught me on one of those and dropped me like a stone. To this day, I work with him at Principal, and I see him and went to college with him and stuff. He frequently reminds me of some of those plays. So,
do you guys remember cow tipping before practice?
Yes.
That I hated that so much. You'd get out to practice because you didn't want to be late, and you're just head on a swivel the whole time because you're just waiting for someone to get on their hands and knees, and then someone would push you. I'm like, for how good of a program we were and how much we wanted to win, I'm like, how did no one ever get seriously injured somehow, like broken tailbone or at least roll an ankle or something, cow tipping each other at practice before practice started. I'm like, it was so dumb, but we were there. We did it.
Yeah. Well, those Emmitsburg games, they were tough. That was that 2000 year with Mark playing.
Yeah.
Rolly, you remember those, but it's those were. I still remember. I feel like that was the most people I'd ever seen in our, in Sanger Field there ever. Like coming out there, it was like wall to wall. Both stands are filled. There's standing room only, people everywhere.
Yeah.
If I remember right, it was like number 1 versus number 2 type of. It was like a state championship, but it
didn't last
caliber game. But they worked their way through. They took it to us pretty bad, but they had unbelievable talent on those teams, and they whooped everybody that even stepped in front of them all the way to the title that year.
Yeah. I remember, I don't know why it sticks out to me so much because he never played a down, but Eli Moe joined your
Mhm.
guys' class that senior year.
Yeah.
He came out for football, and his eligibility, with him moving, I don't know how that all went, but he didn't get a play the whole time. I don't think that guy missed a practice. I
Nope.
think he jumped in on scout team every single time. I just remember that being like a big deal, and I remember Coach Sanger making a big deal out of Eli because he didn't have to. I mean, he knew he wasn't going to play, but he
Mhm.
wanted to be a part of it anyway, and he showed up every day and worked his tail off. I just thought that was commendable.
Same thing in the wrestling room. He was
Yeah.
a big part of that. He wrestled with us. I think because there's only 3 senior wrestlers, myself, Eli, and Traeger.
Mhm.
But yeah, he was in there every day busting his tail off to just
Get guys better.
yeah.
Well, and he worked just as hard as anybody, and that's
Yeah.
the wild thing. He knew he'd never, because you said there's something about eligibility, but he was never going to see the field. But he worked just as hard as any one of us. Like he was going for a starting spot, and it was just to make the team better, which I don't know, I think is even more of a testament to the kind of program we still have, in town.
Yeah. Yep, definitely. Talk about Coach Sanger a little bit. We've obviously hit a lot of things, but like his passing, it was difficult for a lot of people. It still is. Just what do you guys have to say about Coach in general and how things kind of went?
I mean, he molded so many young kids to, I guess, who we are. Really built such a solid base for us to kind of thrive off of. Kind of like what Sharps was saying. He saw the talent in all of us, and that's a great leader. That's a great parent. I mean, a lot of the skills he taught us, I think we still use today, and even for parenting, right? Like scary thought, we have our own kids that we have to manage now, but I mean, a lot of life lessons he gave us, I think, helped us make who we are. And I mean, that just speaks to Britt as well, right? Like he helped build that community. So when we lost him, I think we lost a big part of Britt, but luckily he built such a strong foundation that a lot of people were able to grow from it. I mean, Mark is amazing coach and teacher as well. So just great. Planted the seed, grew a strong tree, and is still delivering the fruit of his
Mhm.
labor.
Yeah, I don't know if I can say it much better. He impacted a lot of people in his tenure there, and sometimes you don't realize it till you get to be our age, or somebody passes away, and what kind of impact they had. But I think he saw who we were as people too. You weren't just another body on a field. You were a kid that he was trying to help. And when he passed away, I think all of us probably lost a little bit of a chunk of your heart. Will never be the same there. But it's I think what I always remember is, what did he tell us, Rolly? Be a gentleman on and off the field. And he always said that, and it's just like, that's the type of stuff right there. You get out there, you work hard, you bust your butt, you do what you need to do, and you're a gentleman while you do it. And then when you get off the field, it's the same thing. You work hard, at life, school, whatever that is. And he was hard. He was after us on our school too. He wasn't going to let that slide. You took care of business no matter where it was.
Yeah, that was the other thing. You take care of business. That was
Mhm.
what.
Yep. Calling us.
Yep. And
He's always,
yeah,
all right, people, let's get to it.
Yeah.
Down to
Yeah.
business.
I know. He had a big impact on a lot of us in a lot of different ways. And he left a heck of a foundation that's, like Rolly said, a tree that's still bearing fruit today.
And the cool thing too, right, is he was all about business, but he let us have some fun too, right? Like study halls,
Yeah.
you can get down to his PE class, get into those big ping pong tournaments, badminton. I mean, he made it fun.
Mhm.
Let us go watch tape. And I mean, we learned a lot from watching tape, and he watched with us and like, hey, look what you did there. Next time, do this. And you'd remember that kind of stuff because he took the time to pay
Mhm.
attention to the detail and help you get better overall. So, I mean, he made it fun, very professional, just a great man in general.
Some of my favorite but terrifying high school memories was in his office watching film. Because you'd go in there, it'd be so fun to watch the film. You'd go into the vault, but then he'd come in and you'd have, like, we put on the 93 title game once, the one where they were up 21-0 and then lost by 1. Oh, he was not happy with us for having that game in there. That was still way too soon to put that one in there. and the guy remembered more. He never forgot anything.
No.
I wore 75 because that was my dad's number in Buffalo Center, and he looked at me and goes, "That was your dad's number back in Buffalo Center in 77, wasn't it?" He was a left tackle and the kicker, and he just listed off like one game he did this, and I'm like, how do you remember? Like, it just blew my mind. Like, he's had that memory. It was crazy. So
Well,
When he had
not
that
only was
window.
he,
Oh,
yeah.
go ahead, Roy.
I was gonna say, not only was he smart, he was built like an ox, man. I remember stories of I think it was a senior, I don't remember who was lifting, but the kid just threw up 225, and everyone spotting him was all excited. And he was walking by, and he's like, "Oh, let me give it a shot." And I guess he repped like a few out. He's like, "Oh, that's not that heavy."
and on to the next thing.
Yeah.
He had that kind of, like you said, that he had a kind of a smirk on his face, and he'd get you on some of those things, Justin Perkins and I were standing in his office one day, and we were both standing there. We had a little 20-ounce Mountain Dews or whatever they were in that window that was in his office that looks out to the gym.
Yep.
And we were watching, and he looks at us and he smirked, and "What are you guys doing?" I was like, "Oh, just checking this out." And it's like, "You guys look like two people bellied up to the bar waiting for something," just stuff. And then he just like not, and that's like it's it. His statement was over. He walked back out to the gym, and just you also figured out too. I don't know, Dan. You said earlier you had to yell at him, but I don't know if it was hard of hearing or if it was clearly selective hearing.
Yeah.
Because he heard everything that you didn't want him to hear. That's for darn sure.
Yep.
I could whisper to Rolly in health class or whatever. And you could stand up and yell and he wouldn't turn around. But man, I lean over to whisper something. He goes, "You got something to say, or Zamago?"
Yeah.
What?
No, exactly. He definitely had been selective, because there's times where like, there's no way.
Yeah.
Like, any other time you're like, how did you not? But then it's like, how? Yeah. I was honored to be asked to be the MC for the Hall of Fame inductions this year. And now I'm on the committee and all that good stuff. But as soon as they asked me, my first thought went to, I get to induct Bob Sanger into the Hall of Fame. And that was a big deal to me. And I had to practice that one a lot. And I made sure he was the last one, because I thought he deserved that honor out of anybody. And not easy to get through. And some people that I encounter, they're like, my high school football coach, I had a good time, but they don't, it's not a big deal to a lot of people, because it just the atmosphere they were in, the school they were in, the community. And for us, man, to go, and I've talked about this on a lot of podcasts, but to go to his visitation and stand in line for 4.5 hours to see the family, it was like, didn't matter one bit if I was there for 4 hours or 18 hours. I was going to wait there to honor, him and his family. So pretty surreal what we.
Well, and Dan, you think about Coach Sanger, such an iconic career and a person in general, but we were kind of, Rolando and I, and you, maybe the grade below us a little bit, but we were kind of in a unique spot too, because we had a little bit of transitioning, if I want to say changing of the guard to some of that with coaching too.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we were privileged to learn from a lot of different coaches. If I think back, Bob was obviously the constant, but we got a little bit of work in with Gene Perkins, which again, I still remember things he says, or in my brain, I can see him just demonstrating something in practice. Benning, Boozman, Fink, trying to think, Heeman, Evans, who else? Yeah, I don't know. There's a whole bunch of them there, but it's like we had the privilege, I should say, that to learn from a lot of good people, and again, some of these things don't sink into you. You get a little bit older in life and realize the tutelage that you had along the way.
Well, and some were volunteers, right?
Yeah.
Like they were just there to help the community. And that's the coolest aspect too, is that people were giving their time to help, taken away from their own families. And I mean, just talking about families, Coach Sanger was amazing, but Linda was just as awesome to do everything she was doing with, I think she was helping the cheerleaders and just everything in general that she set up. She's just such an amazing woman that, in the classroom, and she took the extra time to help support you, help you with whatever you need it. Like that whole family in general is amazing, really.
Yep, definitely. All right, we're gonna get to my last sponsors, and we're gonna have some fun talking Hobo Golf and shop. Here we go. Prepare yourself. McNeese Tire is your local tire expert for all your tire needs. Additionally, they offer automotive repairs, alignments, oil changes, farm services, and they can take care of all your welding needs. They're located 1 mile west of Britt on Highway 18. Call them at 843-3536. That's McNeese Tire and Auto. Levi Don Trucking is my next sponsor. Thanks to Levi and his trucking company for sponsoring all my episodes. Call Levi at 641-860-0077 or look him up on Facebook. That's Levi Don Trucking in Britt. Then I have In His Image Photography, weddings, families, seniors, birthdays, maternity, and more. Let us capture all your important moments, big or small. In His Image Photography by Ashley, located in Britt. Check her out on Facebook. And then Swenson's Hardware is my last sponsor for the night. And again, thanks to all my sponsors, all 19 of you, for giving so generously to the fund. Swenson's Hardware is your local independently family-owned hardware store since 1977, located in downtown Britt. They love being a part of the Britt community and strive to provide the service and selection that their friends and neighbors deserve. Looking for power tools, rental equipment, lawn and garden supplies, and more, Swenson's will have it. Our online warehouse contains 67,000 items, with many available for free shipping right to your door. Swenson's is proud to serve Britt, Hancock County, and their neighbors in Mason City, Wesley, Garner, and more. Check them out at website-swensons.doitbest.com. All right, we can't not talk shop class, Mr. Brown. John, I can't remember if we took a class together or you had something where you'd be in the class I was in all the time, watching like Jackie Chan cartoons on that old TV in the corner, and then just always something. So what do you guys remember about Mr. Brown and shop? Again, statute of limitations is good. No one got arrested that I know of, so
Yeah.
we should be.
Yeah. I feel like Mr. Brown shop class, when you see like on a movie, that class that it's just everybody kind of doing their own thing, and the guys over there reading the paper in the corner, snoozing or something, just somebody's making a baseball bat and the other guy's, I don't know, making a switchblade in the metal shop or something. I don't know, but it was just kind of a free for all. He kind of gave you a general guideline and just turned you loose on the place to do whatever you wanted to. But I feel like we kept it between the lines most of the time. We never got anything real nefarious, just a bunch of 17-year-olds doing dumb stuff more than anything, probably.
One class glued like every tool they could find to the ceiling of the finish room one day. So like all the wrenches and hammers and stuff were just stuck up there. And I believe that was the same room. I think he got locked in one day. I don't remember who that was, but yeah. His Geo Metro kids would pick it up and turn it around the other direction in the parking spot. So you'd have to wait for someone else to leave so you could get out. I was like, oh, we were terrible.
Yeah. He had that. Oh, go ahead, Rolly.
No, I was gonna say he was such a good sport about everything though. He laughed a lot,
bright red in the face and top of his head laughing, or like he's either gonna kill us or take our drinks someday when we're out of high school.
Well, like Rolly said, he had such a good attitude about it too. And as long as you weren't being malicious about something, you could play a few pranks here or there. And I think the most trouble, I didn't get any trouble for it, but shortly after we found like security cameras in the shop.
Yep.
And there was that old red and white automotive, like I think it was an old Ford Ranger over there, and I had the acetylene torch out and we were cutting pieces off or whatever, and something underneath, a rubber hose caught on fire. And it wasn't that big of a flame. You could have just thrown a little cup of water on it. Probably it wasn't like some raging inferno, but I think it was, I can't remember, Nick Wellick or somebody came running over with one of those dry chem fire extinguishers and touched that bad boy off to put it out, and like clouded out the whole shop. It was, it's like a week later they had like surveillance and keeping an eye on things. But
Yeah, Ryan Meyer was in my class. He didn't graduate with us, I don't think, but he moved away. But when those security cameras are up, Mr. Block would be in his office just watching them all. Like his whole job was just watching the shop, I'm pretty sure at some point. And Ryan and I staged a fight one day. And so I took Ryan and I start slamming his head into the heater in the back of the room. But I mean, we're just like landing it, just short of the hitting his head, making it look bad. And all of a sudden we hear Mr. Block come screaming down the hallway, "Get off him, leave him alone, knock him off, knock it off." And Ryan stands up and goes, "Gotcha." I think we racked up 2 or 3 detentions alone for that one. But every time we'd have detention, it would be with Mr. Brown after school. So that poor guy would give us all detentions.
Yeah.
But then he'd have to give up his time to have us serve that detention. And then we would cause more trouble in the detention than we did during the school day. I was like, what are we doing here?
Rolando, you remember at lunchtime, speaking of Mr. Block, when Ryan Johnson stuck that big wad of mashed potatoes to the ceiling and he came over because we were all just dying laughing. And he was like, and that had his hands in his pockets. He's like, what's the funny, guys? We're like, nothing, trying to hold it in. And he no more than like turned his back. And again, it was like a scene out of a movie. He turned his back and that potato wedge or a wad of potatoes dropped and just plop, splats down the table. I mean, talk about classic,
Oh man.
That's our school board president, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. School board president Ryan Johnson, reelect.
Oh, he's gonna love this. Yeah.
Oh, so we shouldn't share any more Ryan Johnson stories because I think
he's not up for re-election for a few years. Yeah, and I tell you what, speaking of him, besides him killing us at practice as freshmen, him and Kevin Eisman are phenomenal offensive football coaches for West Ham. We can talk about Mark and stuff all we want, but those two are doing an incredible job. But
yes, they are.
Yeah. I was gonna say, for Johnson being as smart as he was just as how should I say it?
He got involved.
Goofy's not the word, but he's such a jokester. Like the things he pulled, it just got away with.
I don't know if Ryan and I, after a couple years of elementary with like Miss Farrell, or not Miss Farrell, she was 3rd grade, but like Mrs. Kitchen and Mrs. Brum and some of them, Ryan and I didn't find ourselves in classes very often together. You can probably guesstimate why. Yeah.
I'm an elementary teacher. I know how it goes. You sit down with the other ones and go, these two, no. These two, maybe. These two, absolutely not.
That's right.
Separated.
Rolando, did Mr. Brown ever wrestle with you guys?
He did, man. He was a staunch little dude, man. Like,
he was All-American.
Yeah.
He's got if you go to Jack Trice, if you go to the game this weekend, look, he's got his own tree.
Really?
Yeah, it's got a plaque on it.
Yeah, he was, man, and he wouldn't let loose. I mean, he'd let loose and he wouldn't let you go, man. He was tough. I didn't like wrestling him, but I learned a lot.
Yeah, because I think I can't remember the place positions or whatever, but yeah, he was an All-American NCAA at Iowa State.
I want to say he got like 3rd or something like that.
I think it was 3rd. That's what I was going to say. I'll tip my tongue, but
I ran into him when I was at Nyack. He was taking classes over there after, he'd been gone from Britt for a while. And I got talking. I'm like, I am so sorry for everything we did. And he goes, you ticked me off, but man, some of it was just great. Like like you said, he was a pretty good sport about it.
Yeah.
He used to call me in college. I don't know how Mr. Brown got my cell phone number in college, but he used to call me and ask me if I wanted to come back to Mason City and play rugby.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. And I was just like, I never did. I was like, no, I'm down here to be whatever reason. But I also thought like, my head bashed in over there with Mr. Brown. That's about the last thing I need. So
one of my favorite memories was when we made those rockets. I don't know if you took the class where you made the rockets, and we had this rocket launcher thing that was hooked up. I don't know where it's hooked it up to, but it wasn't doing very well. So Joel Pauls took his Taurus, like a blue Taurus, and we hooked up the rocket launcher to his engine. he jimmied it up somehow, and then when he turned on the car and hit the accelerator, that thing would go flying. My rocket, I'm pretty sure, landed on or near Highway 18 from the football practice field. And he's like, I can't grade that if I don't have it. You guys got to go get it. So myself and a couple guys went on a walk. Like, are you sure? And he goes, I need you to go get it. I think we missed like 2 class periods walking there and back to get that thing. And it was like half on fire still. Like, it was just burned up, and we were just destroying stuff. And then we made catapults with that little skinny wood, and then you have to use glue to put it together. Just this real fine wood. And we had like, 20 kids in the class. There was 20 catapults, and we're going to go out there and test them. We had a couple kids distract him. Ryan Zatto and I snuck around the back shop door, and we turned on the belt sander, the grinder, whatever is that called, and we grinded everyone's catapults into sawdust. So all that was left was a big old pile of sawdust. We come sneaking back into the classroom, and Mr. Brown's like, all right, let's go check out those catapults. We had ping pong balls. Get out there, and he's like, where are the catapults? We're like, where'd you put them, Mr. Brown? How did you lose 20 catapults? And had him completely convinced that it was his fault that those things were gone. There's literally a big old pile of just sawdust on the ground. So just,
Oh man,
we
he was a good guy.
Yep, I loved it.
We had CO2 cars and those bridges.
Oh, the bridges.
Yeah.
Ryan Zatto again, me and him. We put the frame of the bridge together, and then we had pink glue for some reason, and we just dumped the pink glue on it until it was just a big old pile of pink goo when it's hardened. And then we chiseled out all the glue that we could so you could see that it was a bridge. And then we put the weights on it, right, to see how much weight it could withhold. And I think we had like 5 or 6 45-pound plates on there before it finally collapsed. And he goes, you guys fail. And we're like, what? That held like it's a world record. And he goes, you did one together and you didn't do it right. And we're like, you can't fail us, Mr. Brown. He goes, well, you did one project together, you did it wrong. We're like, give us D's at least. And he goes, all right, I'll give you a D. And then we're like, oh, think about our GPA, Mr. Brown. I think we got A minuses. Like, we talked him into A minuses by the time it was all said and done. I think we used the entire supply of glue that was left. Probably cost school a year's worth of supplies, but yeah,
Paul Francis is losing it right now listening to you talk about defiling his shop class.
Yeah, he was literally the guy after Brown. He's been there 20 years now, so he's he's done. I
worked for Paul one summer. He taught me a heck of a lot about construction and stuff. It was a good summer.
He tried to teach me a lot, and then after a while, he ended up going, Dan, you like these classes? I like having you. I want you to get an A, but we can't keep, like, I couldn't do, I still to this day can't do anything. He's like, we're running out of money or something like that. And he goes, how about you're now the shop cleaner. So I didn't have to do any of the building or fixing things. My job was just to make sure and coordinate everyone to get a job done at the end of the day. So the shop was clean. That place was spick and span and looking good. And I got my A. And this house we're buying has a 50 by 30 shed down in kind of more rural southern Iowa. And most guys would kill for something like that. And I'm like, where am I? I have plenty of room for my hammer and 2 screwdrivers. That's pretty much all. So, yeah, it was a good time. So we better talk some hobo golf here. We're going to be here till midnight.
Yeah.
The Masters of the North is what we call Hobo Golf Championship. What keeps you guys coming back to Hobo Golf every year?
Same thing we're doing here, just reminiscing old stories, good people, seeing our hometowns, right? I mean, we live in big cities. Well, Des Moines isn't too big, but going back to your hometown, it does something. It brings you home. Helps you center yourself and just recapture what you had growing up, man. It feels good to go home.
It's one big podcast essentially, because all we do is tell them stories and rehash the same stuff all the time. And
well, I typically learn something new that I didn't know about my classmates here and there.
Yeah, they Rolly is what keeps me coming back every year. So
Can we use your
And
dad's cart? Is that how it goes usually?
yeah. I get to listen to that laugh all day long, so that makes it worthwhile. But to his point, it's the town, the people, the cause in general. We've done a heck of a lot of good with that money, that we raise there for the community. And yeah, it's great to see a lot of people that you haven't seen in a while. And the cool part is, it's like you pick up, I talked to Rolando throughout the year, or like Steve and Josh Eisman and Johnson, keep in touch with people, but you pick up right where you left off. Like you never left. Like it was just the other day you saw each other. And I think that's the cool part about those lifelong friendships, and what we have something special in the town of Britt. Just, it's a heck of a lot of fun to get to spend a day out golfing with friends and telling, like you said, it's got to be the longest golf tournament on the planet, but it's,
I like by hole 12, the guys I golf with are like, Kral's using his putter as a walker right now. And I'm like, it's not because I drink much. It's because I'm exhausted. Like at least 8 guys on every hole. And then we get worse as the day goes on, kind of. And it's like an 8-hour golf tournament, but
a lot of Brit light.
Yeah. Charbs, I remember a couple years ago. So you always go to Peg's Eisman's house like I do for the parade. You were like, man, do you remember 10, 12 years ago when we're in our 20s, early, 30s or whatever? And he goes, I used to take Thursday and Friday off of work to come up to Hobo Days and go at it hard for 3 nights. Now I have to come Saturday morning, go to the golf tournament. I have to take Monday and Tuesday off to recover.
Yeah. The tables have turned. You hit a certain age, and you used to go up early and we'd golf, like me and Josh and Al and like Andy Halick and a whole bunch of people would golf like that Friday too. And like, you just string a couple good fun days together. And man, that gets hard to do as you get older. It's like I said, I used to take days off on the front end. Now I got to take them off on the back end to pull it all back together on Monday.
Yeah.
I'm getting better with it, Dan. Now, come on now. I'm responsible adult.
There was a couple years where I can't remember who I'd be staying with, but someone in town, and we'd be out there till midnight, 1 o'clock, and you're like, I'm gonna call my dad to come pick me up. I'm like, can I hitch a ride? Like, sure. So we'd ride back with your dad into town or whatever. And 2-3 years ago, I'm pretty sure that call happened at like 7:30 at night instead of midnight, 1 o'clock. I'm like, yep, here we are. I'm just gonna.
Ed's always a good sport. I will say that he's always a good sport. That some of the grimace on his face, when he comes to get us, tells the story, but he's always a good sport.
Because I missed 1 year when we were building our house, and then I was out there, but I was selling those record books. So I haven't played every year, but I've pretty much been out there since like Hobo 4, and it's like this year was like 17 or 18. And I think it was like 6 years in before I finished with an 8-some. We'd start with an 8-some and never finish with all 8 guys. It was usually 1 year we had 2 guys left. Me and John Mallon 1 year were on different teams, but we were the only 2 left on the golf course by the time the 18th hole rolled around. And it's changed a little bit. The demographics have changed a little.
Rolly, have you been going since the start? I can't remember. We've been on teams together for a long time, but
I think it's been 6 years that we've been usually get paired up. But no, I mean, shoot, I didn't start golf until after college, which I don't know why. It's the only sport you can drink and drive. But no, I caught whiff of it, and I'm like, oh, I'm into golf now. Let's check it out. And then it's been a blast since then.
I would say there's a couple of those first years, and and Al and Josh Cook and Joe Eisman and a bunch that put it all together out of the gate. Man, we were rotating back and forth between Wesley and Britt. There's a couple of years like that. Boy, some of those got a little touch and go. I'll tell you what. Miller's, your sponsor, I don't know, was too happy with us with some of the carts we returned. And sorry, Jim. Sorry, Skip.
Yeah. But, man.
We've had some good times out there, and it's all in the name of fun and for a good cause. But like you said, over the 15 years or so, things have definitely evolved. It's gotten from a bunch of guys that were in or freshly out of college to now grown adults. it's changed.
Yeah, the late nights are a little harder to come by. But then we'd flip people's the thing that secures their their clubs to the back of the cart. You'd loosen that up before they take off down the fairway and
The
go
worst.
flying off. And no one ever drove on the green back in the day, ever.
Nope.
I had a couple years where my parents had the video store, so we had like 4,000 VHS tapes in our basement after they closed shop. And I'd always go grab about a dozen of those and strategically place them around the golf course throughout the day. And be finding, why is Howard the Duck on 4 tee box? Always had
It's
a good
still the
time.
best pizza ever.
Yes,
Oh,
I
geez.
will say that.
That's been 20 years. 2020 or 2002 is when they gave that up.
Why though, man? Honestly, that's half the reason I'd go back to Britt is just to have Mark's Pizza, man. Like, and it changed. I know your dad didn't give the full recipe because it never tastes the same afterwards.
Do you know what I tell people though, Rolly? You remember tasting nostalgia. You don't remember what a pizza tasted like 20 years ago. You just remember it being good because you were a kid. Kevin Sanger and I split a pizza up there this year during Hobo Days at lunch on Friday. And I'm like, this is really good pizza. And he's like, oh, it's not like your parents. I'm like, you don't remember what a pizza tasted like 20 years ago.
No, listen, I tried it after it was sold, and I'm like, no, this is not the same pizza. So I remember still having that memory. It wasn't much longer, man. It just didn't taste the same.
Yeah, it's good stuff now, but yeah, I just remember growing up, my dad would be like, all right, I got 45 large pizzas to deliver to the football team. You want to help me out? And that was a big deal to go into that locker room and pass out pizzas. Ben Evans, I remember he'd tell me, he goes, I just grabbed one that you were carrying. I ate the whole thing by myself in the shower so no one else could have any. Yep.
That was the best. Birthday parties, videos, the whole 9 yards, man.
I had a
I had
good
a lot of pictures of
childhood.
all those little kids stuffed away in some box somewhere of partying away up there. Little Rolando and Jeff Peterson and whoever else,
I was never really that little, John. Let's be honest.
How do you think do you remember how
high
fat
school?
I lived there. I got to eat that stuff all the time and watch movies while I was eating it. Rent out the Nintendo.
Oh,
Yep.
Yeah, I had a good childhood. Yeah.
That's fun.
What else? Anything else you guys want to throw out there? We're gonna wrap it up here in a little bit. Think of Hobo Golf or anything fun like that.
Man, we could go on talking about stories and teachers
Mhm.
during high school. I mean, G for, was it biology, chemistry?
Yep.
Zimmerman, just Paul's.
Yeah.
I mean, there's
We could
always
get going on
stories.
Mr. Paul's stories here, and that could take a turn.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Yeah, there was a lot of good. Gosh, and you know what's so wild too is I like my dad going to high school, like he had, Charlie Ashland and my freshman year, again, some of that changing in the guard was starting to happen. But, we got to experience some of those same teachers. And, funny thing is, I remember, Charlie was always kind of had that hard-nosed reputation and he'd get after you, but super good teacher. But my dad told me a story about throwing a 5-gallon bucket of water on him one time in his class back when he was in school. I was like, you did what? He's like, yeah, I filled it up. And when he hit around the corner, we came around, they hit him with it. Just some of that. There's good stories, but gosh, there's so many good teachers. G and Chelberg was a heck of a teacher. And the Sanger, Linda and Bob, and Paul's Miss T, Mr. Perkins. Man, they're just Mr. Timmerman, all kinds of people that learned a heck of a lot from. I wouldn't change a thing going back through there.
I got
leaves a big mark on your life.
Yep, I was gonna say the only thing I would change is the Spanish teacher. They never liked me. That was my worst grade in high school, was Spanish. They didn't like knowing I knew more than they did.
I was to say, can I point out the obvious here, Rolly, or do we all?
We haven't taught that word yet. Well, I know it. My bad. Don't
Yeah.
fail me because of it. Shoot.
Hey, I used to love
The
going to
Spain
Rolando's.
Spanish, not the Mexican Spanish.
Yeah.
Is that what it used to be?
Yep, that was part of the answer they gave me too.
Yeah. Was it Senora Wilhelm when you guys were there? It was at least the first year, so
It's the one you guys made cry,
it wasn't me.
or maybe that was the class below us.
Actually, I don't
Something
remember
like-
who that would have been.
Yeah.
We had Wilhelm.
She,
He was from
she
Belgium.
was
remember-
skinny. She was big into cats. I remember that.
Oh. Yeah. They were really mean to her.
Yeah.
She'd like keep her lights on all the time at her house. Yeah, my sister would tell me stories, but we never had her. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
But I do have to shout out Miss T though. I'm in weekly contact with her right now. That book I'm writing about football and wrestling. She's my editor, and she is spending a crazy amount of time editing the book for me right now. Like 2 pages, she's spending a night going through 2 pages of the book, and another. I mean, now she's like re-looking through the whole football chapter like night after night till she thinks it's I mean, she's phenomenal. Like
She was an amazing woman, and she was a diehard Tampa Bay fan.
she
Yeah.
still has that flag up in her room,
Yes.
the Tampa Bay flag, right next to a pennant of Sting from WCW that's still in her room. I was there this summer.
Awesome. She was amazing. I loved her to death.
Yep, she's so dedicated to what she does.
Her and Miss Sanger's room were right next to each other, so you got the best of both worlds right there. They were amazing.
Well,
too.
And nice evenings or afternoons like this time of year in the spring, Miss Sanger would crack open her windows in the computer lab and you can catch Mr. G outside by that greenhouse. Somebody out there? Yeah, Mr. G.
Having one quick and
Yeah.
throwing it into the plants, and we wondered all the plants in the greenhouse were dead.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't know, a testament to the town, the people, the school, the everything. I mean, you could, like you said, we could probably sit here till midnight and we could probably bring class after class in all the way, people like my dad or all the way around and have similar stories. You could go on for hours, campfire style. It's just, a great place. It still holds a special place, obviously, in a lot of our hearts, and probably it always will. So,
Yeah, I mean, fun fact is my dad's plan originally was to move there because we had land in Texas, but just after being there for, I think it was 5 to 6 years, he decided to buy a house just because of the community and how great it was. And he'd never experienced that anywhere else he lived. And so he sold the land and we ended up buying that house in Britt, which they still live there. But yeah, he just said it was a great community and he never been to a place like that. So that's what made us stay.
Dan, I think Jason Harley might have touched on this, but if we want to end on a real happy note, everybody out there in internet lands, if you know Brett Lang and Mr. Sanger was always real good at catching people doing things at the real awkward moments.
Done that.
Yeah, you can, if you want to get him sit down sometime and he'll tell you some fun stories about Mr. Sanger catching him doing some things. I think Jason told you the one where he was doing the hip gyrations, straddling the bench with nothing. I mean, the thing was like a washcloth, and I'm just dying, and Sanger had that kind of look, and he turned around. Oh, could have curled up and died right there.
Yep. Just
And
he
Sanger
looks
didn't
at
say a
you,
word either. He just walked away. I was like,
shakes his head, walks away, and you're like, oh no, this is it.
Well, there are so many things we did
Sorry,
in the
Brett.
weight room that I don't know. It was so small, but the stupid stuff that went on in there. But
Yep.
hey, I learned to love 80s rock from
Yeah.
lifting in that weight room.
And we're all free from tetanus for the rest of our lives from working out on those machines. So
Oh, some of those were just like, man, we're winning
Good
so
stuff.
much with this stuff. This is what we have. But yeah,
Didn't the
it's
shop
nice
class
now.
make a couple of those too?
yeah, Mr. Evans' class used to put
Yeah.
those together.
Keep your immunizations updated, people.
Yeah.
You got to work out. Yeah.
Good stuff.
Well, We are all old people now, and it's 9:55 as we're talking, so we better wrap her up. So thanks again to my 19 sponsors that you see on the screen here. Gave a lot of money for this episode tonight. Hopefully after this, they don't come asking for their money back. We'll see what happens. So, but I was excited for this one, just to have some fun, give each other a hard time a little bit and tell some stories. So next up on the podcast, I have Kerry Van Winkle. He was the head coach at Kanawha from 1968 to 1973. And then he went to Roland Story and won a couple titles and coached for almost 40 some years. And then Jay and Kevin and I will be doing playoff football podcast number 1. And then I have Dan Cooper. He's the guy who caught the touchdown pass in the 93 semis to send West Hancock to the finals. And then Jay and Kevin and I will be back for podcast number 2 and hopefully a third one when we go to the Dome. And then Steve Perkins, which would be Coach Perkins' son, will do one with me. Those are my next 5. So then the elementary teacher one coming up in December. I want to get a lot of people sponsoring that one to say hi to those teachers and thank them for all that they did for us. That's Mrs. Kitchen, Mrs. Savoy, Mrs. Hildman, Mrs. McCauley, and Mrs. Farrell. So that'll be a fun one. All right, fellas, last words. What do you got? We're hanging her up. Said it all.
Yeah. Thanks for having us, and happy to come on, have a little fun, tell some stories, reminisce a little bit, and raise some money for a good cause that's helping a lot of people in a lot of ways. So
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's good catching up with you guys.
Same.
All right, here we
Yeah,
go.
next couple days.
Yep. Always looking forward to Hobo Days. That's always the goal. So, yep. I always, my buddy Doug Eisman from Grundy, in about January or February, I start giving him a countdown. Only 22 more Saturdays until Hobo Golf. We only can find 2 or 3 guys until about 3 days before Hobo Days, and then we finally get a 4th, and it ends up being a great time. So never fails. Find someone.
never disappoints.
Yep. All right, fellas. Thanks for coming on, and go Eagles.
All right. Thanks, Dan.
Yeah.